Hello, hello. How are we all doing? Welcome back to streaming. I haven't got my wine yet, so I will have to do a quick jump out in a second to get my wine. But we're back. Summer's hit, so the flowery shirts are out. Got a new guitar. Things can only go well. So yeah, we'll fill out this track a little bit, then I'll grab my wine and then we'll get started. Also not picked up my plectrum, so we're gonna make this up with some finger picking. And yeah, happy International Workers' Day to everyone. Alright, we're back in 1 second. I'm just going to get my wine, and then we'll get started with the actual stream. And yeah, the new guitar is really cool. Hi, I'm Michael. How's it going? Everyone, subscribe to Michael Byrne's YouTube. Michael was with Wisecrack before Wisecrack was taken over by what I gather from posts are corporate ghouls. So Michael's got his own channel now, and he's doing the same great stuff that Wisecrack were doing. So despite the fact that I'm better at guitar than Michael, you should still go subscribe to his channel. And with that, I'm going to go get some wine. I'll be back in a second. We're back. We are back. change this lighting a bit. It's a bit harsh, isn't it? Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, let me change this lighting up. I don't want it to look like I'm in a classroom. This is my work concentrate lighting to stop me from falling asleep while I'm editing. There we go. That's a bit more moody. Alright, what's being said in chat? It is a very nice guitar. I'm very pleased with it. I got it from... So I got it... Let's get the wine first, because it's not the coolest it could be. I'm going to put it back in the fridge. So this is a fine wine. For anyone who's not been here before, as ever, we crack a wine, we chat, we have some fun, we make some music. This wine is from my flatmate's fine wine delivery collection, so it's going to be nice. Let me read the label, as we always do. It's called Stefano de Blasi, Toscana. Dear angels, thank you for your help. I've been able to produce this wine, showing the potential of Tuscany's most ancient white grape variety, Trebbiano. The volcanic soils where this is grown are known for their quality of fruit, resulting in this fresh, citrusy and mineral wine with a delicate nose of white flowers. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Salut. Well, Stefano de Blasi, my thoughts are going to be nice or bad. That's the scale we're working with. Smells nice, smells like wine. Definitely grapes in this. Let's see what I can, what notes I can pick up. Fuck me, that's really nice. That's a really nice wine. Folks, we've done it. We've got a good wine for the stream. Let me quickly put it in the fridge so it's better, even better. Sorry to leave you again. Almost knocked over my lovely new guitar. Let me catch up on chat first of all. Yes, I was sad that I couldn't be writing more. I won't be writing them anymore for Wisecrack. It was nice to get my thoughts broadcast to an outsized audience. There aren't that many opportunities to write like anti-imperialist analysis and broadcast it to an audience of like subscriber count of over 3 million. So it is a shame that avenue has gone, but we'll get there in the end in another way. And the opportunity was good as well. John is constantly getting better at guitar and hitting the gym and reading all the theory. The man can't be stopped. I unfortunately I think my guitar playing has become quite static. I'm specifically going to make an effort now that I've got this one to try and expand my guitar a bit, because I feel like in the streams it does get a bit samey. Oh, fuck me, that's a really nice wine. Woo. But yeah, grapes were definitely involved, and I'm not sure I can taste the citrusiness, but it tastes like wine, and it tastes like good wine. And we can all thank Tamash Gispeter in chat for that, my flatmate and wine provider. Hello, Dr. Anarchy. I hope you're doing well as well. I am gonna put my phone on to. Oh fuck! I forgot to say that I'm live. Fuck it. People can forget. I'm being attacked on Twitter by the most boring people in the world anyway. So who fucking cares? It's citrusy. It's got that citrusy. Yeah, so last stream got cancelled because my old guitar, which is a very nice guitar, it has had a consistent problem where the input jack basically keeps fucking up, and because of the type of guitar it is, it's a much more complicated job to fix than it should be. You basically have to disassemble the whole guitar to get to the input jack, and it costs a lot of money. And I basically thought I got some money from my mum for Christmas that I hadn't spent yet, because for reasons I just didn't know what to do for it, to do with it. And then once the guitar broke, I was like, fuck it, let's just get a guitar. So I ended up getting this. It was second hand, for about like a third of the price that it should have been new. It was about £700, which is underpriced for what this kind of guitar should cost. And when I got home and I sent my brother pictures, my brother's also a guitarist. He has the exact same guitar but in green, turns out. So I guess great taste all round. Yeah, we'll get a bit citrusy. I'm quite citrusy today. I've got that citrusy all over me. Any opinions on doing a PhD in the humanities? On one hand, I feel it would be meaningful, but talking to my professors, they're saying you're condemned to life in the temp positions and constantly moving. Depends on what you want from life, I guess, and depends on whether or not you're doing a PhD for entry into the academic world. The academic world is fucked. I'm currently struggling to get into it myself. I just finished this last week of teaching for a class that I teach in human rights and international relations, and I've been teaching this class for 4 months and did my right to work check, which is a pre-employment check that you're supposed to do. I did that before this last class. The academic world is crumbling. So if you're aiming to get into the academic world, it is a hard world to get into. And the only reason I can hold out to try and get into it this far is because I have an alternative income stream, which allows me to, it's not just another job, it's another job which feeds into the same academic type of shit. And that is an unusual position for someone to be in. But I would say that if you wanted to do a PhD in the humanities and you were able to get funding, you would give yourself 3 years. Actually, I don't know if you're in the UK or if you're in the US. If you're in the US, you give yourself 7 years to get paid, albeit not in a great amount, get paid to do interesting work that interests you, and that's not bad. If you're in the UK and you manage to get funding, you get 3 to 4 years to do research and get paid for research that interests you, and that's not bad as well. And in the end of the day, even if you don't end up in academia, a PhD is still a qualification that helps in the job market more broadly. So whether, if you're considering pursuing a PhD, those are the questions that you got to muddle out yourself. It's whether or not you want to go into academia specifically, or what kind of life you want to do and how you're balancing out that type of life. Before my PhD, I was in a minimum wage job, so my standard of living could not decrease that much. I did move from Glasgow to London, so there was a drop in the standard of living, but it wasn't as bad as it could be. If you're going from like professional world into PhD, your standard of living could decline like quite significantly. So there's lots of like personal stuff that you got to consider before you do it, and whether it's the right decision for you to do that at the time. Yeah, they had to check whether my Scotland to England immigration papers were all good. Norway, I was thinking of doing the PhD in, unless I have a stroke of luck, leave that environment. Norway, good option for PhDs. They've got good stipends, they pay you very well. So if I was planning on doing it anywhere, Scandinavia is probably your best bet. But again, there are other considerations to it. I don't know if I put my guitar out of tune or not. What are we gonna... To be blunt, does it not feel discouraging that you are likely to have a greater outreach making video essays and blogging in the medium as opposed to publishing articles that will be skimmed by 30 people? Yeah, there is a sense that you get that's discouraging, but that discouragement exists in YouTube as well. Like, until recently, the last two videos have done very well. The one on JD Vance and Scotland's abortion laws, and the one on Keir Starmer's war against disabled people, they both did very well, and so that's been good. But up until then, I've been on a very poor streak of like very poorly performing videos, and I kind of suspect the next one won't do that well because it's longer form and it's quite dense. But who cares? I wanted to make it. And it is, it's so, but broadly, it is better to, one of the reasons why I keep doing it is that, my PhD, maybe 5 people have read it, maybe 10 at most, but I do a video about it and at least 10,000 people will likely watch it, and that's definitely something. The negative side of that, outside of, an academic job, is secure. Well, an academic job is better paid than a YouTube job. If I managed to get a job tomorrow, my income would jump from like £14,000 a year to £43,000, and that's something. If suddenly I could make YouTube videos, I wouldn't have to earn £43,000 a year to be happy. If I could make it more stable, then that would be something different. And whether being able to transfer that over to a more sustainable career is something. YouTube is fundamentally unsustainable and unstable as a career. And I think many people recognise that. So is academia. I mean, things are not looking good in either one of my fucking fake careers right now. Wine is good though. And the new guitar's nice. Yeah, I've definitely gone out of tune. 1 second. New guitar, new strings, out of tune easily, so we're gonna have to do some tuning throughout. Where's my tuner? No, that's my teleprompter. There it is. It is a new guitar, yeah. It's very nice. I got it and spent like several hours just fucking about with it as soon as I got in. A polytune? What's a polytune? I'm not sure what that is. There we go, that's better. Yeah, so, what shall we talk about today? Oh no, I just have an app for a tuner. I should be better at tuning by ear, and every now and then I try, but then I get bored of trying. So, what should we chat about today? What things have been going on? We have old video, local elections, fucking reform. Jesus Christ, yeah, we can chat about reform. Fucking emergent fascism. A paper I've written on fascism with a friend of mine, Keane Aspinall. Just got its reviews in, and I got two reviews. One that said, one that said this was an incredible paper, no notes. It was the best review I've ever seen of a paper, and then the other one being like, this is a mess. This this needs to be completely restructured and rethought from the top. So we're gonna see how we can finesse those two, the difference between those two reviews, and then once that's done, I'll do a video on fascism as well. The emergence of reform is deeply worrying. Frankly, I think that we are going to get a reform government in the next election if nothing changes, and that is, like America, going to be a descent into... I think America can rightly be described as fascist at this point. I don't think we're at a stage where it's pre-fascist. I think that with the arresting of judges, with the mass arrest of migrants and deportation to labour camps, we have reached a point where American politics is essentially in its form fascist, and I think frankly the UK is kind of on its way to meeting that stage if reform get in. And the only reason reform are doing well is because the Labour Party has fucked it so spectacularly in every sense, from protections of disabled people, from protection of migrants, from Gaza, from providing any kind of positive vision of the future. The Labour Party has decided that it wants to in fact fuck it, and that's not great. That's not great. Trans rights as well. Obviously, the courts, the Supreme Court ruling being upheld by the stacked right-wing Equality and Human Rights Commission attacking and further segregating trans people, and the Labour Party upholding and supporting that. Starmer using transphobic dog whistles of like describing women as adult human females in his speeches, all plays into the sort of emergent fascism. Not great, if I'm going to be honest. Doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel like things are on a happy path. I guess the Greens are doing quite well, and in some of my chats, the Green politics and essentially doing entryism into the Greens does seem to be being promoted as a strategy for left resistance. I'm not sold on that, to be honest, at this point. Whether or not the electoral route is sufficient or even possible in responding to the far right, my mind is open, but I remain unconvinced. I'll be interested to see how local elections pan out, how much Reform wins there are, and how many Labour losses, and how many Greens wins there are is going to be interesting, I think. I think we probably in the UK need to be starting to build up Peter Hitchens. Peter Hitchens is a weird guy. I mean, Peter Hitchens is a like arch conservative right winger, but he's a very strange guy. I guess to clarify for people who are the people who are talking about entryism into the Greens, I think electoralism is one part of the strategy. The other part is having some large-scale organisation through which they can mobilise a large amount of popular action. Because building those structures from the bottom is hard, and if there is a pre-existing structure that can be overtaken, then that's not nothing. Again, not something I'm necessarily sold on overall. Yeah, it's a I'm not sold on it myself overall, but I understand why people would be pursuing that as a potential way to deal with rising Reform voting and the likely Reform victory at the next election. Happy May Day again, everyone. What's worrying on the theme of May Day? What's worrying for the left, especially, is the spread of Reform votes into unions. And I've heard from multiple people now, and seen in Nigel Farage's strategy, that a lot of unions are now reported that now want to disaffiliate with the Labour Party. Fine, grand, good, whatever. But a lot of them are also seeking to then affiliate with Reform on the grounds that Reform represents, the interests of the national working class. Some kind of national socialism, you might say. And that shit is worrying as fuck. And it's not like uniform across unions. It's definitely something that older rank and file classic left Labour voters within unions have been pushing over the younger, probably under 40 crowd. But you've seen Farage trying to spread a kind of left-coded vision of nationalising certain industries and doing worker support in some limited ways, along with his anti-immigration stuff. And I saw under the last video, which was about the Labour Party's attacks on disabled people and the stripping away of welfare rights, the destruction of welfareism in wealth, the structure of welfarism, a lot of the comments repeated over and over again that what we should do to fund welfare properly, to make sure that our sick and disabled aren't put out on the streets, is to get rid of all the immigrants and Muslims. That shit worried me. That shit worries me a lot. It was such a prevalent comment, and I tried to delete as many of them as I could, as many of them that I could see on the video, but it was such a prevalent comment, and that is deeply worrying. And it's a result of decades of ideological force from the press, as well as from deep-seated, material divisions of labour between racial classes, racial groups, organised around borders as well. It's fucked. That shit worries me a lot. And I think when we're on a day like May Day, when the workers, commemorating the Second Internationale and various Second International and various mass worker movements that happened on May Day, and also on the classic Maypole Day and stuff. I think that any celebration of May Day necessarily has to be a celebration and a reminder of the combined struggles of all segments of it's commemorating Haymarket, it's commemorating there's other mass worker actions that it commemorates as well. The American labor unions obviously commemorated Haymarket, but there's various, it's one of the ones that's been, there's various different origins for May Day. But any celebration of international workers needs to be celebration fundamentally on and realizing that workers are divided amongst race and gender and ability, and that division and flattening that division to a single worker is not ever going to produce a unified working class. And this is what the next video is about, fundamentally. Next video is about me being more woke than ever. My next video is defensive woke. It's based on an article I did for the New International magazine, and when I say based on, it's a lot of it is copied and pasted over and made more and sort of produced in a more conversational way. It's got another section that's not, but based on that article. Because a lot of people's arguments about woke is that woke divides the universal working class, and in doing so they reify a certain figure of the working class, that being a white working man in the global north who was down the pits or in the factory, a figure which doesn't really exist that much in the global north. But yeah, the core argument of that video is that by obscuring that workers are materially divided in several ways, we make sure that solidarity and liberation for all is never possible. It was a fucking nightmare filming session, but I'm about halfway done with the first round of editing, so hopefully that'll be out next week. And I think with that video, I am gonna make it past 50,000 subscribers. I'm about 180 away at this point, so I think that video coming out will push me over 50k mark, which has been a long fucking time coming. Caitlin's saying, I still use your old human wrongs more like video on Marx and human rights to some folks. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I've just been in one of the most bizarre fucking boring Twitter beefs of my life. When people get angry at me on Twitter, the first thing they do, for some reason over and over again, they get mad about my PhD. And they get specifically mad about the PhD being in human rights. And they start saying, and like, this time it's nominally left-wing people, and they start saying like, oh, human rights, human rights are bad for a number of reasons. And it's like, you fucking, yeah man, I studied them. I know what the arguments are. I'm well aware of the various ways in which human rights are reactionary. What? Studying something doesn't mean that you condone it. I had this bizarre reaction where I was like, interaction with someone where I was like, do you think if I studied neoliberalism, which is the other part of like my research, that I support neoliberalism? And they were like, yes. And now this person's obviously lying, but that's just a bizarre sort of thing to say. But yeah, people like, I'm glad people actually engage with the sort of critical Marxian engagement with human rights that video is, because it's a topic like people are so quick to dismiss without investigation what human rights are and the critical object of human rights. It's nice to actually engage with human rights as a contested and critical object worthy of investigation. But yeah, let's get another tune on the go, and then I will figure out what to talk about next. Maybe I'll talk about some of the negative subjectivities produced by online pseudo-activism. I think I'm gonna do a disco tune. Shock and horror, as John thinks he's gonna do a disco tune. The other reason I got this guitar is that it is my birthday on Saturday, so I thought a nice treat, very late Christmas present / early birthday present. I've got a great post lined up for my birthday. It's gonna fucking rip, man. Gone out of tune again, sorry. We've gone out of tune again. New strings, always a nightmare. Human rights being a fundamentally flawed framework, I think depends on the specific context in which you're using them. what that means, like what does it mean for something to be a fundamentally flawed framework? Framework for what? Framework for what? What you're aiming to do? Strategy? Like, it depends specifically on what you are trying to achieve. Most of the people that I've spoken to, most of the radical groups that have used human rights are very much aware of the limits of pursuing human rights within a legal framework, but use it as a language to basically reject commodification of parts of their lives, mainly commodification of social reproductive goods. So the commodification of land, of housing, of water, of healthcare, these major kind of social reproductive goods, and the human rights frame specifically seems useful for that, for contesting that commodification of those aspects. Is it fundamentally flawed? Perhaps. Many things are fundamentally flawed, but it's often used in conjunction with class agency, with very much like what's the word? Class conscious work centers economic processes which produce the commodification. Does it break out of the cycle of liberal rights talk? Maybe not. It certainly breaks out of an individualistic view of liberal rights, which is interesting enough as it is. But yeah, I think people, it is a topic which does tend to get immediately rejected on the left for various reasons. But it's more interesting and more complicated and more critical than I think people generally assume. You're right, that did sound more disco funk, and that sound more blues funk, and I do want to go more disco, so we are going to change that. Sorry, that was a wee fill. God damn, new strings, man. New strings, they're always a fucking nightmare. I should have played more. Alright, we're gonna start it simple this time. Maybe I'll get some chorus on. Alright, let's go for it. Starting simple and building it up. That wasn't long enough. Sounding a bit hot chip initially. That's quite hot chip. Let's see what we can do with it. Fuck, this wine's nice. It's not quite disco, but it is something. There's one way to make it more hot chip. With a synthesizer. It's okay. We'll leave that for now. But we'll come back to it soon enough and make something new. Yeah, the fret markers. I noticed that the other day as well. I didn't even realise when I was looking at it, but the fret markers having little like things like that is really cool. I like having a guitar. It's nice. It's a nice new guitar. I still have the old one, and I'm not sure. I'm gonna get it fixed, and I'm not sure if I want to get it fixed and sold, or if I just do want to get it fixed and keep it. We'll see. I am gonna fill up my wine, and we'll be back in a moment. You do make a good point, Michael. You do gotta have two guitars. My brother's got like 4 at this point. So maybe I do want to get once I've got some more money. At some point I do want to get a nice acoustic, because that was the other thing I was thinking about, was getting an acoustic. I've never had a nice acoustic. I've played so much like Scottish trad music and folk music on the absolute worst guitars that you've ever come across. I used to play the steel string of I've not got, but that is at my parents', was my granddad's, and it is a Korean or Japanese guitar maker that briefly made guitars for a couple of years, and then went into making tanks and trucks. So it's about there's a guitar that must be about 50 years old at this point. And I've never really played a nice steel string to play some nice folk music, or to play some nice trad music. So eventually I would like to get a nice acoustic. I do also want to get, and this is all dreaming, I do also want to get a mandolin. My old mandolin fucked. I bought the cheapest mandolin about 15 years ago. I learned how to play on that, and I just thought for ages that mandolins were difficult to play. And then about 10 years ago, I was in the Gibson factory in Memphis, Tennessee, and I played some mandolins that they made there, and I was like, holy shit, this is easy to play, and that was nice. So maybe one day I'll get a nice mandolin as well. Yeah, Michael, and like a nice acoustic it's like something that will stay with. It's the same with this guitar. This guitar will be with me for years as well. That old guitar that I've been using previously was one I bought in 2015 or 2016 maybe, and it was secondhand. Then I bought it off a friend for like £150, and I've still got that, and I will, like you say, probably still keep it.
Yeah, what was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about something that was like people's fucking the subjectivity that's generated by some Twitter personalities. I guess in the realms of kind of parasociality that I've been observing of late. Kind of an odd kind of parasociality. So the current, and I don't know, tell me if this is boring. It might be boring. It's something to talk about. But a recent dumb, a recent silly Twitter storm that I've been in is because this one account has been harassing a comedian, whose daughter committed suicide, and claiming that this comedian was sex trafficking her daughter, which is a horrendous thing to say. This person nominally on the left, big left Twitter account, and I was like, hey, what's happening here is that these people, this person is confused being clouted up and talking shit with being a journalistic truth-sayer. And what they're essentially doing is enacting tiny little power fantasies to harass and attack people that they have petty beefs with, and using politics, and frankly and most disturbingly, using Palestinian genocide as the pretense to go after people. I mentioned this and immediately got inundated with these people and their very strange little petty lives. I woke up this morning to a torrential sort of flood of homophobia, people using the R slur, and accusations that I was a Zionist. I think the homophobia, whatever. The things about the accusations that I was a Zionist, I think, are probably the most worrying and indicative thing for this type of trend, because I think it's indicative of a broader trend where people are using Zionism and the accusation of Zionism as a kind of instrumental tool to dump at people for any which reason that they might like, to describe them as basically bad people, no matter whether or not they have, say, a well-documented history of being overtly critical of Zionism that goes back many years. And I think that it's deeply ugly because it's removing the Palestinian, instrumentalizing genocide for the most petty reasons, claiming to be a sort of fighter for truth and justice, to, fucking do some bullshit, and sullying the name, like disrespecting Palestinian people to such a degree that you would turn the monstrosities that are enacted against them into little bits of Twitter beef. And it is, as Barney's saying, it is, abominable. I think it is vaguely interesting, as, if you were to engage with it sociologically. It is that was a joke, just to be clear. I'm being facetious, and I know that sounds like I'm being a wanker. But it is vaguely interesting to look at the way that the distance between the reality of activism and flinging about insults online has turned what would as I'm sure for many people began as an outright moral outrage to genocide and to colonialism, and turn it into something completely trivial. And it's been filtered through a parasocial bond with a Twitter account, which, I mean, I'm going to be clear here. I'm a YouTuber. My livelihood depends on parasocial bonds. There aren't that many people I can criticize for this. But if your parasocial bond is with a Twitter account, that's so embarrassing. Like, I'm sorry, it just is. And that if you've let that parasocial bond transform you into such a hateful person who's so disconnected from the realities of the things that you purport to support, that's even more embarrassing. And never has the phrase log off and touch grass meant so much than in that case. It's just bizarre. At the end of the day, just a little bit weird. I don't really know if I know if I've got much more to say about it than that, other than it's deeply embarrassing for everyone involved, and very weird. Just, log off. Not from this stream. Log off after I'm done. Your parasociality with me is good. Bye. What a fuck. I just, I can't imagine how like, there's some people who I recognize from, years back, using like slurs and engaging in stuff. Well, it's fundamentally a radicalization platform, because a lot of it is like indistinguishable. I mean this very, very specifically, because I've been on the end of, fucking Michael, I will come on your stream anytime you ask. Of course. Just fucking send me a message. I'll be there. Availability dependent, but we'll make it work. Just invite me and I'll be there. What was I saying? Lost track of what I'm saying. It probably didn't matter anyway. Oh yes, radicalization platform, that was it. Yeah, people, my friend Jack pointed out it was like a radicalization platform, because I've been at the fucking, I've had fucking Sargon of Akkad and various right-wing, far-right, various attacks against me. And these people are indistinguishable in a lot of ways from those far right dog piles. Same kind of homophobia, same kind of use of the R slur, and people who, like Barney's saying, old, not even acquaintances, just accounts I recognise who a few years ago would not have used the language that they are using now publicly. They would not think it was acceptable to call a queer man a cum guzzler. Like, that's not an acceptable thing to do, especially if you're on the left, supposedly. And let's be clear, if you're calling me a cum guzzler affectionately, that's a different matter. But if you're using it as an attack, that's obviously unacceptable. And it is wild that certain people have decided that that is acceptable behaviour for anyone supposedly on the left. So it is a kind of radicalisation pipeline. You get the het up in the notion that you are a moral crusader because you're posting about shit. And with that, you slowly start to accept that more and more of what you're doing, the more and more outrageous, more kind of edgy stuff that you're doing, is not only acceptable but morally correct. It is morally correct to engage in that homophobia against a person you have deemed, in this case, bad because they disagreed with a Twitter account you liked. And I think that is a radicalisation pipeline in its own way. Kind of fucked up. There's going to be peace in Ukraine soon. They signed the mineral deal. Jesus. Yeah. I was reading about the mineral extraction deals going through, attempted mineral extraction deals with Trump recently. Yeah, that was it. I was reading. It was the new edition of New Internationalist was talking about, which is a great magazine, different magazine from New International, which is where that magazine piece was published. New Internationalist had some really good articles on Trump's obsession with getting the minerals out of Ukraine. What have you been reading recently? My favourite cum guzzler. I feel like I may have made a mistake. I am currently reading Kohei Saito's Slowdown, which seems fine so far. Just first chapter in. Doesn't seem to be particularly... I think it would be a good introduction to a lot of stuff. Doesn't seem to be particularly dense about... obviously it's about degrowth and ecology. Marx and the Anthropocene was dense and very good. I feel like Slowdown might be more of a introductory work to that, but that's been really good. I've been catching up on articles. I read an interesting article thinking about the stuff on reform, going through the right-wing Reform Party, going through the unions. I read an interesting article about unions as a way of projecting politics, and this was of someone who was doing a sociological analysis of police and military unions in Spain and Brazil. It was highlighting how unions were a really good vector of producing and transmitting not just left-wing political opinions, but right-wing ones as well. And that it was specifically in relation to military and police unions. But I think that applying it to union activists who are becoming engaged with right-wing reform kind of voting might be a really good way of applying that concept of a sort of treadmill, a transmission belt of right-wing politics through unions. That was really interesting, thinking about that current context. I read a really interesting article as well on anti-corruption laws and the ways in which laws and corruption rhetoric facilitate neoliberal globalization, something that I am going to actually use to talk about the ways in which international human rights laws, because I don't know if anyone knows, I'm writing my book at the moment. I'm writing a book, my PhD book on human rights and social movements. I need to think of a new title for it, because the title that the publisher suggested, which was just human rights in a neoliberal world, is, I think, really boring. I was thinking about just looking for like a subtitle of like social reproduction and resistance or something like that to give it a bit more pizzazz. But I need to think about that this week. But I wanted to add some of the stuff about the legal forms of anti-corruption law not just stabilizing things legally for trade, but stabilizing things ideologically as well, and human rights play a role in that. Jessica White's book plug season begins exactly as soon as that book comes out. Oh, you're not gonna hear the fucking end of it. You know what they said? The fucking publisher, fucking publisher came to me and was like, "Oh, John, we're really pleased. We're gonna get you the contracts and enough. We got we were just wondering, you do have a relatively large YouTube platform, so we were wondering if you would think of a way to like promote the book via YouTube." And I was just looking at the email like, motherfuckers, this was in the pitch. I'm gonna be spamming this YouTube channel with the book, and the book will have an open access link, so anyone will be able to download it for free. But if you want to buy it, you know, I'm not gonna say don't, but it will be open access as well. Cheers, Michael. And that the problem is now I have to write it, and that's not ideal. I've started on rewriting the PhD. The first chapters have already been done, but the first like introduction, I've got a chapter written, but I've got to update a lot of stuff. It's a fucking nightmare. You got to look at the PhD again, which no one wants to do. But yes, so I'm going to integrate some of that article on corruption into some of the critical literature on human rights, and try to add more to. So there's a academic, a scholar called Jessica White, whose work on human rights and neoliberalism is probably the best critical work. Others like Samuel Moyne is another major one, but his work is a bit. I don't think his work is. I think his view is a bit. His view on neoliberalism is undercooked, frankly, and I think his treatment of human rights is more of a historical analysis rather than something that is engaged with the sociology of human rights, which just doesn't. I don't think it's as good as Jessica White. Jessica White, I'm going to try and add more to her work. Hiya, Sanan, how's it going? For anyone who doesn't know already, every other Thursday that I'm not streaming, except next Thursday because I'm going to be at book launch, I and some friends stream D&D on SK the Crusader, and it's always good fun. Alright, I've lost my train of thought, and I've just decided that this tune is getting to me, so we're going to change the music. Have I changed my mind on effective altruism? I have not changed my mind on effective altruism. My view on effective altruism is pretty clear, and I'm correct.
practice rounds to get this correct. One more time. No, I mean, EA and long-termism are the same movement. They're part of the same movement. They're part of the same structures. You want to give money to charity, that's up to you. There's nothing I can do about it. I don't think it's necessarily bad to give to charity. There are many, as the video points out, there are many obvious quantitative and epistemological issues with even deciding what is an effective way to give money, what constitutes effective, what is the morality of effectiveness within something that you decide is charity giving. These are all assumptions that the effective altruist movement makes, which fundamentally fit into a really narrow neoliberal, more broadly capitalist assumptions about the world. The long-termist movement, as such, has demonstrated that it is structured like a cult, greedy, and unable to properly account for what causes they think are effective, demonstrated really effectively by the beginning of fucking McCaskill's book, in which he points at deworming, a topic which is largely been discredited as not bad as such, but hardly effective, and with vaguely lots of various particular issues that actually caused harm in some ways, because of the way that the movement was structured and because of the nature of global north to global south giving, which keeps the global south in a particularly dependent position on global north charity. Other issues that McCaskill pointed to in that book included carbon credit systems, which he declared was the most effective way to give money, which actually is one of the not only least effective but most harmful ways to engage in climate politics. Reproducing that as an effective altruism goal was not only ineffective but harmful. If these foundational parts of your movement, of the things that you think are effective, can so easily have the rug pulled out from under them, then you've not got an effective altruism movement. What you've got is a cult.
And you can say, well, they change their opinions all the time, but what's the point of the effective altruism movement if you can't be sure which of the movements are in the end of the day, effective and which ones are ineffective and also harmful? So, it is not effective. It reproduces colonial mentalities. It is a fundamentally colonial and capitalist way of looking at the world. It builds people into cult-like structures. It is fundamentally tied to the long-termism project, which has been tied to capitalist economies, global economies, and has had a really detrimental effect on the development of things like AI and AI regulations. The EA's tried to silence me there. If you want to give money to charity, that is fine. No one's stopping you. No one has any problem with you giving money to malaria nets. It's not an issue. What the problem is turning that into a movement which claims to tell you something about the world. But the movement itself is built off of shaky premises. Shaky premises which reproduce the very terms of the thing that it purports to solve. You cannot solve the problem which produces a lack of malaria nets with effective altruism. All of this is very clearly, well structured, and charmingly described in my effective altruism video, if you can get past looking at the minging tongue that I bought. Effective altruism does claim to tell you something about the world, because the premise of the way it assesses what is effective and what is not is this fundamental premise about how the world works. When you're engaging with politics like this, you have to engage with what the fundamental assumptions about the world the people are telling you. It's like fucking McCaskill's best example of probably the best example of the bullshit of effective altruism is McCaskill's TED Talk, in which he takes a graph with where he's plotted human progress, which he has measured as GDP, fundamental assumption about the world, human progress and GDP mixed together. He starts in the Industrial Revolution and says, pre-industrial revolution, there wasn't much human progress. Fundamental, colonial, racist, capitalist assumption about the world, discounting whole histories of people which didn't lead up to the Industrial Revolution. That is an assumption about the world that's telling you how you should engage with it. He then looks at the expansion of GDP, and which he has tied with human progress, and projects up to the current day. He says, look at this trend, isn't this great? Things have gotten so much better for everyone over time. Again, a very heavy assumption about the world, including the teleology, the kind of progress that we think about the world. Then he projects this progress curve 2 million years into the future and says, look at all the good that we can have with 2 million years of this same system of human progress flourishing. These are assumptions about the world which are fundamental to the EA project. They are fundamental to the people who produced it, the people who lead it, and the people who are, in the end, long-termists as well. So, these are all fundamental assumptions to the EA movement. Why is measuring progress and GDP fundamental to effective altruisms? Because effective altruism assumes that the world can be measured in discrete ways and measures progress and good doing with measures like development, fundamental GDP, capitalist assumptions about the world. These are fundamental assumptions about the EA movement. If you don't like those assumptions, you may not be an EA. Now, for a group that seems to know how to predict what is the best part of the best way to spend money, they do seem to also engage with a lot of fraudsters, Sam Bankman-Fried being one of them. You would think they would have a better way of engaging with fraudsters if they were good at projecting what the most effective way to gain money would be.
the categorization, the sort of reification of fundamental quantifiable categories, fundamental part of capitalist philosophy and epistemology, essential to the process of producing value, of producing commodities, essential to the understanding of economies as fundamentally measurable in those terms, fundamental to EA assumptions about the world. Effective altruism, apparently effective altruism says that we should be altruists and we should be doing it more effectively. You need to question what effectively means. How you measure effectively. That is the point. Sorry, if YouTube's having a moment again, I'll get back to playing some guitar rather than rehashing what are the points that I made explicit and made more eloquently because I wrote them down first in the video, which again is a good video. It's a Michael's saying, one time the main EA non-profit sponsored a Wisecrack video and we went so soft on them and they saw it and cancelled on us right before. Is that an effective way for the EA movement to spend its money? Maybe they could have spent the money that they paid you for a Wisecrack video on malaria nets. Would that not have been more effective? Or is effective altruism fundamentally? My favourite part of that video on effective altruism is I read the effective, this is in one of their books, and I read their description of the funnel system of getting people into the effective altruism movement. And it's like, get them in, once they get more responsibility, then they go out and sell more effective altruism, and once they get more responsibility and so on and so on. It's a funnel system. And the best part about a funnel system is if you turn it round, it's a fucking pyramid. Fucking pyramid scheme bullshit. Where did I put my pick? I got too mad that I put my pick down somewhere. I don't know what key this is in. Did anyone see where I put my pick? Sorry, I've got another one. We have gone out of tune again. Where would I donate £10,000? Probably one of my local communist organisations. Are we in B? I think we're in B. Maybe not. I remember I went on the Left of Philosophy podcast to talk about effective altruism. And some of them hadn't come across effective altruism before, and I was describing it, and they were like, "Oh, so it's just utilitarianism then?" And I was like, "Yeah, It's utilitarianism that has even like less of a foundation in moral value that it's trying to communicate. Utilitarianism is a more complex, is a better way of engaging with the world than effective altruism is. It's a more curious type of philosophy than the sort of bastardized form of utilitarianism that effective altruists subscribe to. What's Left of Philosophy podcast, some of them genuinely just couldn't believe that McCaskill's work and how it had been produced and taken seriously, because it was so obviously a fucking clown show. Do I consider myself moral? I don't think it matters whether I consider myself moral. I try to live by the politics that I espouse. And one of the issues with effective altruism is that it flattens different understandings of morality within the confines of cold calculation, which, as we will talk about in the woke video, these kind of cold abstractions, and as Amy Cicero puts it, coldest of cold abstractions, flatten and inadvertently or advertently privilege certain understandings of the world by pretending that they treat everything equally. There is definitely, Michael, you're right, there is definitely something very specifically, it's not just British Oxford, but it is British Oxford about EA, but it's also Silicon Valley. And, you know, those two are just, that's fucking two sides of the same coin at the end of the day. Care more about your own politics than starving children. See, that's exactly what I mean. What you've done is flatten morality into a utilitarian and a bastardized utilitarian calculus, where there is no movement possible because politics has been removed from it beyond maths. That's what that is. And that's not even getting into the fucking coloniality. In human rights, there is a concept called victim, savage, savior, which critiques the forms of human rights where Westerners, global north, impose a kind of savior narrative on themselves to go to the global south, develop and save the children from the savage inhabitants of that land, whether that is the savage governments or the savage and it's not utilitarian calculus, it's utilitarian arithmetic. That's a good bit. That's a good joke. And within the sort of theory of critique of human rights, the people who go to these quote-unquote savage lands ignore the politics, ignore the history of what produced particular economic and political conditions, and yet uphold themselves as saviors. And in doing so, they uphold the fundamental economic and political realities which produce the poverty that they apparently seek to alleviate. Very consistent with EA philosophies. And I want to be very clear, these are not new criticisms. These criticisms of charity giving, of aid, are, decades old. And to not be aware of them is forgivable until you are an EA, at which point you should be firmly aware of all of them and be able to give a convincing rebuttal. But never once have I heard someone give a convincing rebuttal.
EA is not saying we should give it back. EA is saying we should maintain the conditions that allow us to generate that wealth so that we can ourselves decide how it is apportioned back to those people. There is no democratic control of that wealth being reclaimed by the global south. The companies, the workers in the factories that produce our garments are not given any democratic control over the share of the wealth that is given back via effective altruism. The people who do the cobalt mining are not given any democratic control over how that effective altruism aid is given back. So there is no giving back the apportion of the wealth through EA. There is only deciding unilaterally as subjects in the global north how you think that money should be spent, how you've decided that utilitarian arithmetic, to steal a phrase so aptly put up in chat, is apportioned. It's not a system for in any way alleviating or dealing with capitalism. It's a system for justifying capitalism and justifying imperialism. That's it. You want to give back to the global south? The only way is to join a radical movement and fight for the overthrow of imperialism. I'm going to change up the track, so I'll tune the guitar. Part of this, as I keep banging the whammy bar. I'm not used to having a whammy bar, and I'd forgotten how annoying whammy bars are when you keep pressing them for going out of tune. What kind of music? What should we do? How should we play this? The wine's out again, so I'll make a tune and then I'll get some wine. Come on, you can hear it. My tuner can't hear. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, we're doing electric sex, I've decided. Great.
Oh yeah, the picks are the accessories are gold. It's nice. All right, I'm gonna get another wine. Yeah, it's unbelievable how much better to play this guitar is than my old one. It's so nice. I'll be back in a second. years of being told by my brother not to fuck around with his whammy bar, before I had my own guitar, really stops me from fannying about with it. But yeah, it is, especially those high positions. It's so much easier to play. And it also, my old guitar has an issue with the I can't remember the word for it. I think the neck's slightly bent, so the higher frets are always slightly out of tune, which was always kind of annoying. But yeah, it's great. I'm having a great time, having a blast. A good birthday present in the end. This is the last glass of wine, by the way, so we've got until the end of this wine before we wrap up. Anything else? Anything else on anyone's mind for chatting about? I guess we've got Andor to talk about, but I don't know what to say about that except it's fucking brilliant. What a show. I've got no criticisms. I'm just enjoying it. I'm having a great time. I hope that it sticks to landing and continues to be good. Yeah, I do need to take it. I think I am, for the old guitar, I am gonna I'll get it fixed, and I think I'll go try and find a place to give it a full like work over when I've got a bit more disposable cash, because this ate up my disposable cash. Tune up in the car sense, yeah, I will do that. Only criticism of Andor is most revolutionaries aren't that hot. I swear, like that scene that went in the end of the last episode when Bix and Andor are walking away from blowing up that building. I was just like, fuck me, guys. I wish you'd see me from across the bar. You know. Jesus Christ. Not to take a peek behind the kimono, but I was like, fucking hell, guys. This is outrageous, frankly, that people are allowed to look like this. Cinti as well. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful woman. Brasso, who wouldn't want to be hugged by him? That moment in the last series of Andor where Brasso starts the revolution on their planet by knocking out a fucking stormtrooper with a brick made out of the ashes of Andor's mum. I was like, Brasso, I will die for you. You fucking legend. I'd gladly be swept up in your big bare arms. Brexit. Yeah, the only thing that you'd think of like being a third for Bix and Cassian is that they're probably just so into each other that you'd feel like you were imposing. They have their own like little ritual, and you'd just be there going like, "Hello." There's a guy called Brasso, and he's fucking brilliant. We love Brasso. He's the fucking goodest guy. Fucking Caitlin, he probably can. I am sad about the droid. That does make me sad. I thinking about the droid stuttering away on a planet without Andor makes me sad. Yeah, true. Waiting to say, yeah. You kind of like, yeah.
go to a hotel, sit on the cuck chair, and just, just enjoy it. Fuck, it's a great show. The what's the Stellan Skarsgård's partner in crime as well. That the last episode when she was just like, as the guy who wears the cape, Krennic. He's like when he was like being the guy. He has such a Disney camp villain, like a classic Disney camp villain energy, and that kind of queer coded villain kind of energy, like a high camp fucking guy with his fucking cape, just fucking queening out, being a piece of shit. So good. That scene where he was like going up against Mon Mothman and Krennic and the assistant was just steely as fuck. I was just watching it going, this is so good. This is so good, this show. Yeah, there's not much to say about it except it's just good. It's just a good show. Someone did mention that there is a bit less sort of synthesizer music in the soundtrack this season, which I did notice, which is a shame. I like that synthesizer music, but still, not enough for it to make it any kind of real issue for me. What else? Anything else? Oh, the way that Andor paints its fascists is really good. The way it first of all, the hiring of all of the sort of empire, imperial, bureaucratic monsters. See you around, Michael. Feel free to send me a message anytime. The way that it cast all of the imperial sort of employees with the most haunted face imaginable. Like, they must have done a casting call. It's like, all right, guys, we need the most haunted faces. Who's got the most haunted faces in the entire area? Get out our big book of haunted faces. We need the most haunted. And then they got them for all of their petty fascists. From Denise Go to all of the ones that operate there. It's fucking brilliant. And then they get the makeup department to put a bunch of eyeshadow on them to make them look even more haunted. And that's great. That's just great stuff. Okay, Lynn, we all have our times. I'll probably end up winding up after I've had this wee chat about Andor anyway. Unless anyone else has got any more burning questions that aren't about effective altruism, which I am all tapped out of talking about. But the way that it takes these fascists and makes them both completely irredeemably evil and completely believable is so good. The way that Cyril is fucking such a pathetic little dweeb who's so excited about every single little part of his time in the Empire, of getting access to be evil for the Empire, is so pathetic and so theatrically absurd, but so fucking believable. Is great. You can imagine Cyril working for the DWP and loving catching people off what he thinks are fraudsters. You can imagine him absolutely loving it because it's in the service of the Empire, and it's so fucking believable. So hateable. It's great. All right, I'm gonna make one last tune and let anyone filter in with any questions or anything that they'd like to talk about that again isn't about effective altruism, and I'll deal with them after I've made a new track. Oh, Liz, you should watch it. You should 100% watch it. You don't have to get Disney Plus. You can just go on any of the sites that from which you might acquire a show and go from there, and it's very much worth the watch. It's by far the best thing Star Wars has done in a long time.
This is quite nice. Whoops, I didn't realise I was. sorry, not to, like, this is, it's an incredibly boring conversation at the end of the day, but no, if, like, the notion that if everyone in the West gave 10% of their money to charity, that we would eliminate poverty is not true, for a number of reasons, including the many ways charity perpetuates the poverty it seeks to solve. There are numerous occasions when this is the case. Not only that, when you create a charity event like that, you create dependence within the local economies that you are disrupting. Very famously, the production of food aid to states produces dependency and decimates local economies. Now, you may remove some food poverty, but what you will do is create long-lasting dependency on the global north to make it even harder to escape from the position of dependence. One of the, again, well-researched, well-understood reasons why charity does not solve global issues. This is not something that needs to be rehashed again. If you want to give money to charity, you can give money to charity. Nobody's stopping it. Not an issue. If you want to analyze those charities yourself to decide what you think is the most effective way, then you can. Nobody's stopping you. The effective altruism movement is specifically a movement because it dictates actions on a line of specific political ideology. And that political ideology is harmful. That is the problem. If I wasn't enjoying this tune so much, I would end the stream now, because I feel like we have sufficiently litigated this topic. There won't be a specifically birthday stream because, I mean, this is it. If I was smarter, I would have said this was the birthday stream, because then people will come and watch it more often, but it's May Day. And like a good worker, I put that before myself, and I keep forgetting that it's my birthday. What we will have is, Doctor Who. Yes, we could talk about Doctor Who. What we will have is, almost certainly within the next couple of weeks, I will be hitting 50,000 subscribers, so we will have a special 50,000 subscriber stream, probably in 2 weeks. I think that we'll get there in 2 weeks. And we will have all of our celebrations there. I'll buy some fucking Prosecco. We will have a fucking blast. It's great. Did you know? I learned the other day that people on Reddit think I'm in my 40s. Someone commented on one of my tweets. It was like, "Oh, John, I wanted to ask what your skincare routine is, because your skin, I heard you were in your 40s and your skin looks great." And I was like, first of all, thank you. Secondly, fuck you. Like, apparently people on Reddit we're talking about how there was no Gen Z, like fucking like left-wing YouTubers, really, and everyone who's currently in the scene is in their 40s. Not 40. I want to be clear. Not 40. In my 40s. Do I look like I am in my 40s?
is it just like the sort of air of fucking authority, the fucking intellectual air of authority that I generate that is making me being in my 40s? Do people think I was born prior to 1984? to 1984. I'd have to be 40 then, right? Unbelievable. I was walking to teach my class, and like a fucking guy was like, "Oh, your skin looks great for someone so old." I was like, do the fucking Doctor Who thing is being like, "Oh, I'm older than I look. I've read so many books." Yeah, Owen Jones, but Owen Jones has a portrait in his fucking attic that becomes like that suffers daily twink death, so he doesn't have to. We're not all Owen Jones. I got off track. I can't remember what I was talking about. For anyone who's coming in late, Limey Redneck is not being rude. It is an inside joke that is inscrutable if you came in late. Yeah, this is the new guitar. Yeah, so Doctor Who, that's what I was talking about before I got sidetracked on people thinking that I'm in my 40s. I have been, so I thought the first 2 episodes of Doctor Who were not good. I thought the first one especially I thought was very bad. I thought the newest one was the best so far. Varadasethu, who's Sinta in Andor, is great. No complaints with her. She's good. She does a good job with what she's given. She projects a very good energy of like critical, competent, good stuff. She's very hot. That works well. fucking Inshutikatwa, also very hot, great stuff. The first episode was really, I thought the first episode was really, really bad. I thought that it didn't give enough time with Belinda to establish her character before the Doctor. I thought that the shoestring plot to deal with themes of incels was not well thought through and didn't land, because we didn't get any chance to see what her and her ex-boyfriend's relationship were like before he became an AI monster. I liked the droid that liked to polish, that was fun, but aside from that I didn't think it was very good. The second episode I thought had a better premise. I think the idea of like a cinema cartoon doing that kind of creepy, kind of Betty Boop fucking style works well. I think that was a good idea, but the episode itself didn't have enough drive as an episode to hold it as to hold its own as an episode. Like having the just one lot of people at the beginning going missing and then no one else throughout meant that you didn't have any sort of escalation of threat. I think that the stuff with the Pantheon is at this point kind of boring. I thought that we'd resolved that in the last series. I don't give a shit about that anymore. I thought it didn't make sense, the resolution, and they spent too long doing the self-referential fan stuff. That it didn't. That would have been fun if it was much shorter, but they did spent way too long on that. The second episode felt like it felt like the Wire episode, the David Tennant episode with the TV that steals people's faces, but it felt like a worse version of that. That episode had threat, it had, Rose having her face stolen, it had the Doctor trying to deal with the fact that Rose might have been gone forever, so it had an escalation of threat, and it sort of did that what is essentially the same premise better, even the same time period, the 50s. So it felt like a rehash of that episode, just done kind of slightly worse, and with a slightly different sort of manifestation of it. So it didn't land very well, and like the vague hinting at like Jim Crow era South didn't play into the episode at all. Really, it was just like there and then not part of it, which what are we doing? Like the Wire episode, the whole mood of post-war Britain is fundamental to the episode, and that's the point. And sure, you're not dealing with like the sort of racial divisions in such a way, but you're still dealing with the sort of society and what that means and the type of people it produces, and you're taking that seriously in an episode. And they didn't take that seriously within Jim Crow era fucking America. They just sort of dealt with it and moved on. And that felt dishonest. So I didn't like that episode either. See you later. Thanks for coming. The third episode was by like a massive step up. Oh, that's fun, Liz Poltergeist. The third episode was a massive step up. It was a fun, competent episode that I think did a monster story really well. I didn't like how the sacrifice of the woman at the end was undermined just to sort of hint at the thing escaping. I thought that was cheap, and I thought it cheapens that character's growth, and I think it undermined the potential of the Doctor to engage well with that. I thought it was good. After watching that, I went back and watched Midnight, And the difference between those two episodes, like I liked that episode, I thought it was good, but the difference between that episode and Midnight is astronomical. Midnight is such a good episode by comparison. Like the whole conceit being about not the monster, but the way that the people react to the monster and become monstrous themselves. Like that, Midnight is an episode, you watch it now and it's an episode which has matured as it's gone on, and as politics and society has progressed, it has only remained more relevant, which is the sign of a really good episode of TV. Like there's one small comment when the Doctor's being questioned by all these humans and the most Tory-coded people in the world, and they say like the middle class family, and they ask him where he is, and he says, "No, I'm just a traveller," and the woman says, "Oh, like an immigrant," and that's like, in this specific moment, that's such a good, that could have been written today and it would fit in perfectly. And that's like, and it's just such a good episode. Everything about that episode works perfectly, and it's a testament to that episode that has only, I think, gotten better with age. It's so much. Watching that episode after watching the new one highlighted the flaws in the new one, because the new one the Doctor didn't really grow. His relationship with Belinda didn't really grow, and there wasn't anything kind of social about the monster beside that the soldiers are kind of being soldiers. So you didn't get that same kind of satisfaction watching the story unfold. I thought the way that they dealt with, like, I thought having a deaf actress being central to the plot, they did that really well. I thought that the use of of someone who's deaf played really naturally and really well into the episode. I thought that was really good. But overall, after watching Midnight, it made me like the episode less, but I still think it was the best episode. And yeah, Liz, Belinda acting naively shocked about segregation was so strange. Like, she's a nurse, she's clearly extremely smart. Why would she be surprised that there was racism in the American South in the 1950s? It doesn't. Yeah, that makes her seem. It's bizarre. Like, they dealt with it, and the way that they dealt with it, that same kind of thing with Martha was having Martha be like, "Am I okay to be here?" In the Elizabethan episode, and that makes sense. Thank you, FFJamie94. The horror of Midnight comes not only from the eldritch alien, but also the horror of the Doctor being viewed with mistrust and ultimately cast out and almost killed because he was kind. Yeah, Midnight is such a good episode. Midnight is Russell T Davies's like masterpiece. Clearly, it has such longevity, and I do feel like the double feature of The Wire, the TV one, which is very similar to The Wire, and then this one being a sequel to Midnight, makes, and I'm like, Russell T Davies has been involved in Doctor Who for 20 years now. It's not surprising to me that he may have run out of ideas. I think it's quite obvious that they need to bring in a fresh and young new writing team. People who grew up on the early reboot stuff in the way that Russell T Davies grew up on the original series, and give new writers like a shot to take over the reins. Otherwise it will continue to stagnate. But it's you know, I do think the trend of the series has been going up, so the next episode might be even better, and I might be eating my words. But yeah, that's my thoughts so far on Doctor Who. Grant Morrison would be fun in Doctor Who. You want to see some dark ass Doctor Who? Alright, it is closing in on 11 o'clock, so we're gonna draw it to, we're gonna put this stream out to pasture. Thanks for coming. It's been a nice stream, nice to show off the new guitar and have a little bit of a rant with you guys. It's always fun. I'll hopefully see you in 2 weeks for what will hopefully be a 50k celebration live stream. And yeah, thanks for coming. I'll as ever leave the music playing for 5 minutes to tune us out. Cheers.